Hey. It's been a busy time outside the old YouTube factory, and since we last looked at the immersive sim landscape, a hefty handful of 451-filled box stackers have made their way out to our screens. Now, some of these games have already picked up a bit of interest with early access releases or playable demos, while others have little more than a juicy trailer to tease us with. Still more of these vent-crawling, code-cracking adventures lie in the forgotten crevices of Steam, where only the brave dare to venture. Each one of these games is linked in the description, so if you see something you like, make sure to slap it inside of your wish lists. And as always, if you want to support our quest, we'll talk about some ways you can gather round the cozy fire of the Hero's Tavern near the end of the video. But for now, it's time to sit back and feast your eyeballs and ear holes on these promising offerings, because where AAA studios fail, it's up to even more small developers to save immersive sims. My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Rollin' Coons. And together, we are the two-headed hero!
Except it's just me. Let's start out with a selection of games that you can test drive. These upcoming in-sims all have a playable demo. To begin, we've talked about Athanasia before, but we're going to talk about it again. This mix of Jurassic Park creature features and adventure game style inventory management makes it a standout amongst the growing indie ImSim crowd. The chunky analog designs of its various gadgets and weapons give it a nostalgic feel, and the cleverly interconnected environments provide tons of possibilities when it's time to traverse through its trapped corridors and monster-filled concourses. Athanasia currently has a Kickstarter running to meet their development costs with a pretty lowly goal of only 20,000 Bald Eagle coins, and they still have a way to go before they hit their funding, which is why I'm bringing it up first today. It's a cool mix of survival, horror, and velociraptors all wrapped up in a nice PS1 flavored package. So if you ever wanted to bonk a saber-toothed tiger in the face with a crowbar, or drug a dinosaur with sleeping pill steaks, this one right here is the game to back. But if you're feeling more nostalgic for Metal Gear than Dino Crisis, you might want to check out Aquametsis. The action takes place on a huge oil rig type structure of some kind after the world's oceans have risen to dangerous levels. Clean lines, limitless waves, and simplistic textures make this feel like a love letter to Big Shell from Metal Gear Solid 2. This game bills itself as a tactical shooter with base building elements, but this is not just a sneaking mission, Snake. You'll be taking out several platoons of shiny armored soldiers along the way using a variety of different moddable weapons and grenades. Too many soldiers and not enough bullets? Fire up a grenade launching hobby drone that'll be surely referenced in your war crime tribunal. Juice up some mysterious psychic powers with this hairdryer looking thing to charge your strength and acrobatics, move without making a sound, or even do some truly wacky stuff like unload your enemy's guns from afar or teleport around. On top of all this, Aquametsis does a great job of making you feel like you're in full control of an elite tactical merc. You can peek around and sneak around, of course, but you also have multiple weapon stances that affect your movement speed and accuracy, and a few fun parkour moves like wall runs and mantling. And you'll need this for navigating the game's highly vertical maze-like superstructures. Not quite sure where the base building touted in the description comes into play, but I'm really looking forward to seeing more Aquametsis, even if I'll be continually forgetting how the hell it's supposed to be pronounced. Next up, we have a few in-development ImSims with tantalizing trailers. Take a look at Retrospace, an upcoming immersive adventure from The Wild Gentleman that combines the disco fever of the 70s with space madness! These gents might better be known for their barnyard noir mystery, Chicken Police, but rather than procedural poultry-based detective work, Retrospace puts you in the moon boots of an intrepid action hero, trapped in the halls of a space station gone wrong. Press materials and trailers claim that your hero will be able to mutate themselves and gain massive combat advantages, or find sneaky ways around the traps and monstrosities that lurk in the shadows of the Aurora 5 station. Think something like Prey 2017, but with hybrid creatures, blocky robots, and many, many mustaches. The dev team behind Retrospace might be a bit bigger than the others mentioned here, but the game just looks so promising that I couldn't pass up a mention. So let's balance the scale and talk about another solo dev with a big ambitious project. Spectra from Saturn Interactive takes the 70s aesthetic on a totally different path, where Russia is winning the Cold War, and the player takes on the role of a Soviet sleeper agent. Instead of blowing away chunky robots and space mutants, we get to outmaneuver jumpsuited James Bond guards and spider-legged cyborgs using a variety of fun tools and weapons. Never have I been so intrigued by a cartoony boxing glove gun, especially after seeing it used to scale a building. Spectra is a gorgeous looking game. Check out the retro stylings in these environments, that neon glow, these floor patterns, the comfy looking cushions, and so many of these set pieces show off a high level of interactivity. A working pool table? It's amazing to think that one dev is doing so much to bring this spy story from an alternate history to life. Speaking of games with unparalleled interactivity, yeah, that's one of my smoother transitions, huh? We have the mysterious ETOS. Short for Escape to Outer Space, this one dev production from Underside Games is based entirely around pacifistic stealth. You can do no harm, but have a ton of tools to sneak, distract, and hack your way towards the surface of a great underground city on your journey to, well, outer space. The trailer shows off some neat features like throwing a darkness grenade and using night vision to navigate through it, launching yourself up walls with a tripwire, and remote controlling a turret. While it's pretty early in development, I'm definitely interested in an ImSim where do no harm is the central philosophy. But now it's time for a couple indie ImSims where you'll be doing a whole bunch of harm, mainly in the form of clobbering guys with your fists until they stop moving. Gooning has taken on, well, a whole other meaning in the last few years, but Fallen Aces aims to take it back. There's a big gang of wise guys, mooks, palookas, and of course, goons lurking in its 1940s pulp novel cityscape, and enough fisticuffs to make Golden Age Batman blush. But there's no Batman here. Instead, you get this gritty plot involving an assassination of the mayor, a missing vigilante, and a trench-coated Avenger by the name of Nightwave. You don't get to play as any of these people though. No, the player gets to don the somewhat tarnished golden gloves of a former boxing champ turned down on his luck private eye by the name of Mike something. The game opens up with a mysterious wake-up call telling Mike that an army of goons is on the way to put him on the wrong side of the grass. But from here, we take on the horde of wise guides with every household object that's not nailed down, the occasional rare firearm, and a lot of the good old-fashioned chin music. The slippery speed of Mike's footwork might be a little reminiscent of a Doom mod at times, but man, the amount of level verticality and the secrets on display here, it's just fantastic. There's plenty of places where you'll be able to slip into an out-of-the-way window or throw a bottle at a prominent button in order to progress, and these feel like little treats for the player, little dopamine hits that make you feel clever and rewarded for coming up with a sneaky solution. The comic-style visuals combine with crisp, dot-printed panel cutscenes to form a visual feast. The music is just the right kind of evocative jazz that you'd think of whenever a sleazy pulp crime story rolls across your screen, and the voice acting is top-notch hilarious.
Let's go, pretty boy.
Just chalk one more up for the Johnnyverse. The tragedy, though, is that only one episode is out right now, which might take 4 or 5 hours to complete, and I simply need more goon slapping action. On the other side of the kicky-punchy coin, we have Corpus Edax. We've talked about this one a few times before, but this dystopian brawler finally dropped into a 1.0 release this week. Corpus Edax is the name of a massive megacity, and the first thing you do is wake up in the freezer.
Sir, are you classified as human?
Negative. I am a Meat Popsicle.
An actual meat popsicle brought back to the land of the living to do the boring labor no one else wants to do. You find out that it's a lot less rosy topside than you were initially led to believe, and quickly become embroiled in a resistance movement to take out the brutal military dictatorship that's running things. But since Corpus Edax is a firearm-free zone, you'll be waging this war with whatever bricks and bottles you can get your hands on. This game is ambitious, and it has a lot in common with stat-driven RPGs like Fallout while still retaining its ImSim roots. There's an in-depth character generator, and the derived stats actually influence how mobile, strong, agile, and smart your character is, down to how well they control in a fight, or jump over obstacles, or finagle a lockpick. And you can actually feel this through the control responsiveness. As you level up, your character begins to move a little more naturally, or learns a few new tricky combos, or gets a little more time to hack that stubborn safe lock. And in addition to all this, Corpus Edax embraces chaos. If you want to lead some gang members on a merry chase, throwing beer bottles and fire barrels at them along the way, you can. If you want to cause a crazy three-way with some of the city's security forces, you can. If you want to avoid everything and crawl through a vent, well, you can do that too. There's a lot of ways to get creative, and even though it might not be a looker like Fallen Aces, this game's got heart. There's some fun set pieces and encounters here, like this rave fight sequence or these mine shafts that let you kick guys into the center of the planet. We also managed to get review keys for Corpus Edax, so expect a full video on this game once we complete it and gather our thoughts. Now for a few indie imsims you probably missed. These are hiding out in the dark corners and crannies of Steam, and it's our job to just drag them into the light, where they hiss like a vampire. The first one is Envelope. Envelope just released into 1.0, and it's kind of the oddball out in this video. On the surface, it has a lot more in common with adventure games or one of the many PS1-styled retro horrors we've seen so much of lately, but Envelope contains enough clever twists and turns that set it apart. As the game opens, you find yourself in the grimy sneakers of a lowly gas station employee that gets sucked into a world of conspiracy. Your girlfriend's life is at stake, and her mysterious kidnappers refuse to release her unless you commit murder. Very little is revealed about your target or the massive mansion that he resides in. And what's worse, the contact who's supposed to supply you with a gun to do the deed screws up completely and forgets the bullets. You know, that special gun food that makes gun go bang. So what started out as a simple night near the hot dog grill turns into a series of side quests as your unlikely hero scours the surrounding suburbs in an attempt to find both the means and the method of taking out his target and saving his girlfriend's life. But are you really doing the right thing? Envelope boasts a bunch of endings and a ton of secret objectives, and as there is no save feature at all, it's clear that the game encourages 30 to 60 minute run-throughs instead. Subsequent completions result in new mechanics opening up, which can in turn make later run-throughs more interesting or easier. Envelope's limited control scheme and slower pace might not be for everybody, but if you're in love with lo-fi horror, this is one that you need to check out. Next up, Zofia. This is one that everybody missed. There's only a handful of reviews on Steam for this inventive fantasy RPG imsim, and that's kind of a shame. There's a lot to like here. Character creation might be a bit simple, but what other game lets you play as a little otter guy? As the game opens, you find your hero is cursed with a magical blight that allows them to use great power, but slowly turns them into one of these grape-flavored specters that plague the countryside. Right away, the movement and action in Zofia feels fast and furious. Combat seems a little simplistic at first, with your only options being block, attack, and power attack, the likes of which are specific to each melee weapon. But combat quickly opens up with the addition of the contextual magic button. Aim your magic fingers at the ground and cause the earth to swell before you. Aim it at a piece of wood and you'll summon deadly spikes. Point your powers towards a metal surface for a boost to your armor, and so on. Once you realize you can double jump by launching yourself from a stone platform beneath your feet, or strike your summons to create deadly ice projectiles, combat becomes even more strategic. Throw in a hearty kick, a slew of different weapons, and a frickin' grappling hook into the mix, and you've got a formidable combination of systems that can take down just about anything the game throws at you if they're used properly. Sure, maybe it doesn't look the greatest, but there's just so much else on offer here. You got your Elder Scrolls style skill leveling, you got villages and towns full of people to talk to, you got the ability to play as an otter that can talk to animals. There's a whole section where you get to fly an airship around. Plus, what the hell? This game has co-op and competitive multiplayer arenas. This is a Herculean effort from a tiny team, and if you can put up with just a little bit of jank, there's a ton to discover in Zofia. Last on our list for today is the much overlooked 2021 burglary simulator, Filcher. It's another ambitious project from another solo dev, much like many of the titles we've talked about today. Filcher's gone mostly unnoticed, likely due to its incredibly narrow niche. It's a game that plays out closer to the cult classic Thief series from the 1990s, presenting the player with a high level of difficulty, a big toolkit, and an emphasis on sneaking over fighting. In Filcher, you play as, well, a somewhat fragile Catburglar. Each mission has you breaking and entering into high-end establishments, corporate offices, customs warehouses, you get the idea. You avoid cameras, bonk guards on the head and quietly snatch up as much loot as possible before you make your escape. The gameplay definitely hits those 90s stealth game notes, and the film noir visuals and comic-style cutscenes do a lot to give the game a sense of identity, but there's a few spots where I feel Filcher falls flat. The choice to use 2D sprites rather than 3D models for all the enemies and items can feel a bit disorienting here, especially when viewing them at an angle. There's not many tools that can deal with a guard once you've been spotted, which usually means that getting seen is a game over. But the biggest offense of all, no mid-mission saves. That's right. No save scope. This makes Filcher into a game that's aimed at only the most devoted and patient sneaking fans out there. Filcher might have absolutely filtered me, but if any of this sounds interesting and you'd like to know more about it, we'd highly recommend checking out the deep dive review from the Summer of Mark over on his channel. He also does a lot of long essays on some of the greatest ImSims and RPGs ever made, so go give him a follow if you're into that kind of thing. Also, thanks for giving us a follow by slapping that big old subscribe button if you haven't done so already. We truly appreciate each and every one of you taking the time out of your day to hang out and listen to us ramble about games. Sharing our work, or telling us about some ImSims or maybe some other games that we might have missed, also goes a long way towards nourishing our little corner of the internet here. Just sprinkle some of that fertilizer on the topsoil, you know. But an extra special thanks goes out to our patrons over at The Heroes Tavern. 2 simple doubloons get you access to exclusive videos, updates, and more. We're just a humble two-headed mutant that loves video games, and your donations do wonders to keep the channel going. So first of all, raise your cups to our Seat of Honor level supporter, Wolfgang Bristol. And a hearty cheer goes out to everyone seated at the Heroes table, including Adam Uselman, Jaducible, KK, Vulpus, and the rest. Thank you all so much. The next time we stack a box on top of another box, or throw a chair at the brainstem of some random ne'er-do-well, we're gonna be thinking about you. So anyway, thanks again for watching, truly, and we'll see you on the next Two-Headed Hero.